Hi everybody, this is Mr. Simons. Let's now start looking at a slightly new concept. It's called slope-intercept form. You should all be familiar with what slope is now. That was our previous lesson, and it's a way for us to measure the incline of something, like how steep or how shallow it is, and also what direction it's going in from left to right in the coordinate plane. So what slope-intercept form is it uses slope like heavily in it, and it's a way for us to write an equation, a linear equation, so in two variables, y and x. It's a way for us to write this in a way where we can easily graph it, and where we can easily pull off certain information. And with that information, we can graph it, we can answer questions about zeros of functions and other things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how it's set up and how to graph with it and see how we do with that. Okay, so let's get started. So slope-intercept form is, and you're going to hear me say this a lot now. So it is, it follows the form y equals mx plus b. And you'll see in this color-coded thing that m for them is, and for us is slope, and then b is your y-intercept. So one thing I want to clarify really quickly, well, there's a couple things. First of all, I'm going to use the colors red and yellow a lot for slope and y-intercept respectively. So I'm going to highlight that, and that is slope. So it's important to note that when we're writing these and we're doing this, that the slope is just basically, it's the coefficient of x is what slope is in this case. All right, so slope is the coefficient of x. So it can be positive and it can be negative. It can be a fraction. It can be an integer. It can be a decimal. It can be a ton of different things. All right, and then our y-intercept, and this is kind of important. You can't, that doesn't show up that great, but it includes the sign. All right, I'm going to see if I can change the color. Let's go with this. All right, so it includes the sign. All right, so this is your y-intercept, and y-intercept is b, what b stands for, and just make sure you include the sign, because that tells you exactly where it is on the y-axis. So that's what a y-intercept is. A y-intercept is where this line is going to cross on the y-axis. If you look at this picture, right, this is your y-intercept, and it's called the y-intercept because it is where it crosses on this y-axis, right, that point right there. So what's great about this is we can use this to help us plot these and help us write them and everything. So let's look at a couple problems, and then I'll stop the video and then we'll pick up in another one. All right, so example 1, it says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line with a slope of 3/4 and a y-intercept of -2, then graph this thing. All right, so the way this works is we're putting it in this equation. We're putting it in y equals mx plus b, all right, where m is going to be my slope, so I'm going to color code this for you guys. So m is my slope, right, and it says here slope of 3/4, and then b, and I'll go back to using yellow, and we'll just make it work. B is my y-intercept of -2. All right, so if I'm going to write this equation, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically take the information that's in the sentence and plop it in. So m is my slope, and if I look at this, it says the slope of 3/4. So where I see m, I'm going to replace it with 3/4. I'm going to write x. And then where I see plus b, I'm going to replace that with my y-intercept. And my y-intercept is -2. All right, so you could put plus -2 if you wanted, but just put -2. It's tidier and easier to deal with. And so this gives me now some information I can use to read it. So if they just gave me this equation, I could use this to plot the graph. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So the first thing you do is you look at your y-intercept. So we're going to start by looking at -2 there. All right? And so on your y-axis, which is right here, you just go down to -2 and you plot a point. So I'm plotting a point right there. Then you're all done with your y-intercept at that point. And so what you're going to do now is you're going to look at your slope, which is 3/4. And if we know what slope is, right, it is the change in y over the change in x, which is also known as the rise over the run. And so if I have a number of 3/4 for slope, what that means, because it's a positive number, it means that I am going to go up 3 units, and then I am going to go over, and it's important to notice that whenever we go over, we're going to the right. I'm going to go over to the right 4 units. So I'm going to start at my point that I just plotted, and I'm going to go up 3 units. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go over to 4 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to plot my second point. Now that I have 2 points, I can connect these guys, and I have somewhat of a straight line. Make it take up as much of the graph as possible. Put your arrows on it, and you're good to go. And if I see this, if I did it right, it means you should be able to find, you know, other information off this. But this is probably the fastest way you can use to graph equations if it's written in this form. If it's written in this form. If it's not written in this form, then it gets a little weirder. But if it's written in this form, you can use this. All right. So let's take a look at what we got here. Let's do one more example, and then we'll pause the video. All right, so slope. So if you want to try doing this on your own, absolutely go ahead. Give it a shot. All right, we have the first thing we have in front of us is we got to write our equation. So we're going to put it in this y equals mx plus b, and just remember that m is our variable for slope, and then b is the variable for y-intercept. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this as y equals, and instead of writing m, I'm going to find my slope, which is -1/2, and then put x after it. And then my y-intercept is 3, so that's +3, so I'm going to write +3. And you use the plus if it's positive, your addition sign. You use your subtraction sign if it's negative, right? So -1/2 x plus 3. Now we're going to plot this. So we're going to start by doing our y-intercept. Okay, and our y-intercept is 3. So let's go up to 3. Y-axis is right here. So let's go up to 3 on the y-axis and put a point. And then our slope is -1/2. All right, and when you have a slope that's negative, right, so when you have -1/2, think of that as -1/2. Always put the negative sign in the numerator, all right, in the numerator. All right, so then what that means is we're going to go down 1. That's what the negative sign means, goes down, right? Go down 1 and then go over to the right 2. So down 1, over 2. So from this point right here, I'm going to switch colors again, we're going to go down 1, over 2. And then I could even do another one. I could go down 1, over 2. And then that gives me 2 points I could do. So there's a point right there. Down 1, over 2 puts me right here again. And so that's my line. And wow, that's really crooked. All right, so I'm going to leave that right there. I'm going to grab my snip tool. We're going to move you over a little bit. That's much better. And you're good to go. Well, we need our arrows, but that's it. That's how it works. That's how you write the equations when they give you the information, and that is how you plot the graph of it. All right, next video we will start going over some other things with this.